Hello, and welcome to this tech session on building native cross-platform apps with AppStudio, an introduction. I'm Chris Lesweer, I'm product manager for AppStudio, and with me we have...
I'm Erwin Sukianto, product engineer with AppStudio.
We're excited to present this to you. We think we've got a lot of great information to share. AppStudio is a really cool product that we're very passionate about, and hopefully you'll find this helpful and find a way to use AppStudio in your work. So a little bit about the agenda. We're going to first talk about what is AppStudio. Then we'll go over a few overview of some of the apps that people have built with AppStudio. We'll give you a tour of the different components, how to deploy apps with AppStudio, how to customize AppStudio apps with code. So getting into a little bit of what the code looks like, what you can expect when customizing AppStudio apps. And then at the end, we'll talk a little about how do you get AppStudio, the licensing, how do you get access to the software, and who has access to the software. And I think a lot of you will be surprised that you most likely already have access to most of the software. So first, what is AppStudio for ArcGIS? Well, if someone was to ask me what is AppStudio for ArcGIS, I'd say it's a solution for creating native apps. So apps that get installed and run on your device natively, not in a browser, but a native app on a device, whether that's a smartphone, tablet, or even a desktop. But it's more than just a solution, it's a low-code solution. So we provide a lot of tools to help you write code easier, things that will connect you into the ArcGIS platform easier, settings that you can configure, just ways to get up and going easier creating apps. But it's not just low-code, it's even a no-code solution. So this is kind of the industry term, a low-code, no-code solution for creating apps. So you can really create apps, these native apps, without writing any code if that's your choice. If you just want to configure one of our templates and fill out a configuration, a number of settings, and connecting your images and your data sources to that app, you can actually create apps with no code. So we kind of scale from this no code to low code, or as we'll show later, you can write custom code from scratch if you like. So why native apps? Why are native apps important? Well, for various reasons. One is that many people want to go offline. They want to be able to use an app and get access to their data, their maps, maybe collect information while offline, while disconnected from the network. Web apps typically don't work in that fashion. Also being able to access the device capabilities, whether that's Bluetooth, whether that's the high accuracy GNSS GPS receiver, maybe accessing things like the sharing capabilities of the operating system, being able to access certain things on that device that you typically can't with the web. And then for many people, it's very important to go to app stores. If you're going to be publishing your app or getting your app out to the public, where they're going to download it and use it, they're most likely going to get that from an app store, whether that's Google Play or the Apple App Store. So for many people, it is very important to get your app into the App Store. So these are a few, there's more reasons, but these are a few of the major reasons why native apps are important and why people want to create native apps. But there are some challenges. Native app development is not easy. It's typically been something that takes time and money, whether you're going to do it yourself, or whether you're going to train up and do it yourself. The time to actually build the app takes a good amount of time, or you're going to hire maybe a third party to build it for you, a consultant. Native app development going that route is not cheap as well. Then you need to decide how you're going to distribute the app. Are you going to put it into the app stores? Maybe you don't want to put it in the app stores. Maybe you just want to distribute it to your organization. So there's questions on how you're going to distribute the app. App security. How are you going to secure the app, the layers, the data that you include in that app? And then maintenance and updates. Are you going to be able to maintain this app and update it over time, particularly if you're trying to hit multiple platforms? Now, for smartphones, for tablets, iOS and Android are dominant, and that's what most people are really focused on. But you might also be looking to build an app that will work on the desktop, on Windows, Mac, even Linux. And if you are going to hit all these different platforms, with native app development, you're typically writing the code each time for each platform. That could be up to 5 times the code for if you want to hit all these 5 different platforms. With AppStudio, a big advantage of AppStudio is that you really just write the code once and it runs on all these different platforms. So it is truly cross-platform. the same UI works on iOS, works on Android, and looks and behaves the same. So how do we do this? Creating the app once and having it run across iOS, Android, Linux, Windows, and Mac, all these different platforms. Well, we take advantage of some tools from Qt. Qt is a company who builds their core product is a C++ SDK for building applications, but they also have the ability to, if you write in a QML language, which we'll talk about later, to build your apps to go cross-platform. So we take advantage of Qt and some of the tools that they have to be able to build a product on top of that, the AppStudio product, which allows us to do this. So this is a very powerful concept and something that we've proven to be successful, and others have proven it as well. And I'm going to now talk about some of the apps that are being built using AppStudio to give you an idea of what maybe you can build. Maybe you're not sure about what app your department, your organization needs at this time, but hopefully this will inspire you from what others are building. So one is public information apps. These are popular and usually published into app stores, where you just want to get some information out to the public about maybe some land that you work with, some things that are happening. One example here is the Allegheny County Park Trails. This is an app that shows that you can download and then actually go offline with different maps of different county parks and see the trails if you want to go hiking. You might be in an area where there is no connectivity, and this is handy in that sense. We have this Field Days app, which is an app for an outdoor event, an outdoor conference of sorts, and allows you to navigate to things like where did I park my car? Where's the first aid station? Where can I get some ice cream? This type of data. So these are a few examples of public information apps, getting the data you have, the information you have, and getting it out to the public for them to use. There's also data collection apps. An example of this would be Survey123 or Quick Capture. Now these apps are professional GIS data collection apps built by Esri, but they're built using AppStudio. And because of that, when they release on these, have a release for either of these products, they're released on all the different platforms all at the same time. But you can also build public data collection apps to do citizen science or crowdsourcing. So TerraTruth is one which allows you to collect information about vandalism to public lands. And you capture the information and it gets sent back to the organization where they can then take action upon it. So data collection could be for professional data collection for your organization to bring data back into your database for you to use to maintain things, or it can be for simply to crowdsource information from others out there and publishing those apps into things like public app stores. Then there's business apps. This is really about taking the tools that you need to get your job done and putting them on a mobile device. Wildfire Analyst is one, where this is for wildfire firefighters to be able to do some wildfire analytics and predictive modeling while in the field. So it's typically something that they'd be doing on a desktop back in their office. They can actually go in the field and say, here I am, this is what the weather's like, this is the slope, the terrain, where will a fire most likely move in these conditions? It's a powerful show, and not only can do work in the field, but actually bring analytics into the field as well. And then we have other apps like the Esri support app. This is built by our support services at Esri for managing your support tickets or for accessing information from Esri support. And this actually doesn't even have a map in it. It's an app built with AppStudio that's really to support and give you access to the information, but you don't need to put a map or have mapping information in your AppStudio apps. And then there's enterprise apps that have a very specific workflow or have a very specific purpose. Diggler is an app that was built to go and show you 811 or call before you dig information in the field. So if workers need to go and scout an area before digging happens to make sure they don't run over gas lines or power lines, they use this very focused app to go to know where to go and to report back what they've done in the field. Another one is Plate Meters. That app actually connects via Bluetooth to a very specific piece of hardware which they use in pasture land management. So being able to connect to that hardware, read that information, and give a custom app for it. Those are a few examples of the enterprise apps. I want to talk about now just a few success stories. One here is using one of our templates. So this was built by a GIS analyst who really is not a developer, doesn't have any developer training or skills, but was able to create an app and put into both app stores. What this app does is allows the public to take a picture of any illegal dumping of trash in the area, in this rural county of San Juan County, New Mexico, and then report it. Well, when they take a picture and they capture the information, a little bit of details about the tires or the refrigerators or whatever they found out in the desert, it gets reported back to the GIS department, who then uses another app from Esri Workforce to send a crew out to do some cleanup. And then, as you see, it gets reported back here in the dashboard. And when this was when the screenshot was taken, there was 127,000 pounds of trash collected. So this is a great success story of really one GIS individual who was able to set up the database in the ArcGIS Online account, create an app from a template, publish it to the app stores, and then really do a lot of good from that. We have some of our partners. One is GeoDecisions, who build apps with AppStudio. Here's an example of an app for Pennsylvania Department of Transportation. It's a guide rail management system. And this is a custom version of Survey 123. So with AppStudio, you can get the source code of Survey 123 and customize it as your own, whether you just want to brand it. In this case, they did more than branding it. They actually added more functionality to it with some mapping capabilities, being able to see their features on a map in the app. And of course, when they capture this information and they do the reports, all that gets pushed immediately back to their roadway management system. And then there's also a really cool app in the app stores right now called the Earth Challenge 2020 app, or EC 2020. This is a campaign from the Earth Day Network to do some citizen science around the world. So it's really a flexible citizen science app where they can behind the scenes update the citizen science activities that people do, or they call them widgets. They're really just kind of mini AppStudio apps that run inside of this. It was developed with GeoMarvel, an Esri partner, and it's actually a custom version of AppStudio Player. We're going to talk about AppStudio Player a lot later. They customized AppStudio Player to offer this really cool app, as you can see here, to do things like to organize the pickup of trash and plastics, to also identify the pollution in the air, in the sky. So really cool app created in the app stores, and I encourage you, please go out and download it now. It should be available in the Google and Apple app stores. That was just an idea of the apps that you can build with AppStudio. Of course, whatever you can imagine, whatever you need in your organization, there's many possibilities of what you can create with AppStudio. Well, now we're going to talk a little bit about, give a tour of AppStudio. We're going to talk about the different components that are included. Before I do that, I just want to give a very high-level architecture overview of AppStudio. What's there? First of all, we have this core Qt components at a lower level that really we never, as AppStudio developers, we don't touch. It's underneath the hood. It allows us to do this cross-platform things, but we don't really touch it. There's also some Qt libraries which we access that gives us the capability to do build UIs, build nice user interfaces for our apps. We have an AppStudio framework, which gives us core components built by the AppStudio team, and some core components for building really nice apps. We have the ArcGIS runtime, and on top of that, we have some templates, samples, enterprise samples, and custom apps as well. I want to focus on the ArcGIS runtime. This is the mapping components that Esri brings to app development. We have different runtimes for Android, iOS, .NET, various different runtimes, and they all have the same. They're all built from a core base, so that they all behave the same, so that you visualize your data the same, and you have the same spatial capabilities. Well, we take advantage of the runtime for Qt. In fact, it's included inside of AppStudio. So you can do all these things with apps that you build with AppStudio. View maps and layers, view offline maps and data. You can do data editing, even offline data editing and syncing of data. You can do some analysis right on the device in the field. There's routing and navigation capabilities, and we even can support 3D data, whether that's online or offline 3D files. So the runtime is quite powerful, and you can build some really powerful mapping applications with AppStudio because we include that inside of the product. It's part of the architecture. All right, so a little bit about some of the productivity tools with AppStudio, some of the bits, because AppStudio, it's not just a single thing. It's not just a single piece of a single application. It's really, I say, it's a suite of productivity tools which all together helps you build apps and helps you be successful. But the core component that you're going to install and work with is AppStudio Desktop. And this is a desktop application. It runs on Windows, Mac, and Linux. It allows you to, you log in, and you can create new apps. Those can be from templates. You can start with the layout. You can start with a sample. There's all sorts of ways to start, and you can do some settings on those apps and manage them, upload them to your organization. It's really the core tool that you work with when managing and creating apps in AppStudio. Inside of there's 80 plus interactive samples. These are really cool. They allow you can download them. You can see how they work. You can then look at the code, see how the code works, maybe copy and paste some of that code, alter it so it works inside of your app. It's really powerful. And these are things that go from how to bring in a layer into a map, how to look at a 3D scene, to how to do biometric authentication. So how to use your thumbprint to actually open and secure an app. So these are a very powerful tool when working with AppStudio, being able to actually see how an app works, and then see the code behind it and incorporate it. A lot of people, I personally learn this way. This is how I often learn on how to do things when developing, and seeing how others have done it and understanding it that way. We have a number of configurable templates. These are apps that are kind of ready to go. You just need to give it titles, images, some text, and then connect them to and point us to the services, the mapping services you have running, and you can create an app from scratch. And we'll see a little bit of that later as a demonstration from Erwin. Then we have a number of advanced templates as well. These are things like Survey 123, Quick Capture, and a few others. These are, we call them our enterprise templates. To alter these takes a little more know-how. But you can, some people just want to brand them, some people want to extend them, but these are also part of the product. And I say a lot of people, particularly with like Survey 123, want to make it their own or add those extra bit of functionality to it and publish it for their organization. We also include a full developer environment. This is we call it the Qt Creator IDE, or Integrated Development Environment. So this allows you to write code and debug your AppStudio apps if you're going to be writing code. This gets included with AppStudio Desktop. It's not a separate install or anything. You just install AppStudio Desktop, and this gets installed as well. And there's AppStudio Player. AppStudio Player is available for all the platforms, iOS, Android, Mac, Windows, and Linux. It allows you to play your apps without actually doing a compile or build of the app. Think of it as a web browser plays HTML files, right? An AppStudio Player plays an AppStudio project and an AppStudio app and runs it inside of this, kind of a container. But it's a great tool not only for testing, as we'll talk a little later, it's also great for distributing apps inside of an organization. And then we have CloudMake. CloudMake is our build service in the cloud. So rather than you having separate build machines for iOS, Android, Windows, and all these, and making sure that they are in sync with whatever version of AppStudio you're using, and that the libraries and DLLs or whatever are all lined up. We have a build service in the cloud, so you just focus on writing your apps, and then upload that and call the build service, and it will actually give you I call the install executables, the files that you would install on a mobile device or that you would install on a desktop. So it does that piece for you, and a huge productivity help for our developers. All right, enough of me talking now. I'm going to turn the time over to Erwin, who's going to give you a tour of AppStudio.
Thank you, Chris. This is Erwin speaking. Before I begin, I just want to set the stage that in this first part of the demo, I'm going to show you the tour of AppStudio Desktop, and then I'm going to create one template from one of our configurable templates. Sounds good? So now I'm going to switch over to my desktop. So now we are looking at my desktop. I have AppStudio Desktop open. As you can see, this is the AppStudio Desktop. This is where you are going to create an AppStudio app, manage AppStudio app, configure, make changes to the code, and do a lot of other action for that app. The first thing I wanted to do is that to create new app, I'm going to click the top right button here, New App. When you click this, it presents you with a lot of options. The first tab is the starter app. This is the most simplest app there is, simple Hello World app. We also have 4 configurable templates. We have 3D Scene Viewer, which is a collection of web scene and mobile scene package. We have a Map Tour app that is based off of the Story Map Tour template. We also have a Map Viewer template that is basically a collection of web map and mobile map packages. And we also have a Quick Report template, just a citizen science crowdsourcing app that Chris showed in one of the success story with San Juan County, New Mexico. On the next step, we have layout samples. This will show you how to do certain UI for your app. We also have over 80 samples that will show you every bit and pieces that you need to create your app. As Chris said, that this is also where I started learning how to create apps in AppStudio. I would look at one of the sample on the specific things that I want to do, whether it is using AppStudio App Framework or whether it is using ArcGIS runtime functionality. So I'll take a look at how it is done and incorporate that part of the functionality into my own app. The last step I wanted to explain is the enterprise templates. It consists of all of the apps that's created by Esri using AppStudio. For example, ArcGIS Quick Capture, Survey 123. We also include the AppStudio Player template here. So let's begin our demonstration by, for the purpose of the demo, I'm going to use the Map Viewer template. I'm going to name this template Hydrant Inspection. So I have the title ready here. For interest of time, so I'm going to copy and create this app. It's going to create this app, download the Map Viewer template sample, and then create a copy in your desktop. So now I have this Map Viewer template called Hydrant Inspection. I'm going to run this app quickly before making any changes. So the way to run this app is you can highlight the square for the app. You can click Run, or you can right click and click Run here. And then it's going to run the app inside your desktop. So as you can see, this is just a basic Map Viewer template with our default purple background, and then it's pulling all of the public web maps that is available in ArcGIS Online. But we wanted to configure this so that it looks like your own app. So the way to do this, I can configure all of this setting inside Map Viewer template by going into Setting. So I'm going to right click on the app and I go to Setting. It's going to open a new window where you can configure all of these changes. So I'm going to put this on the side. I open my cheat sheet on the right side. So I have I have a summary page here. So I'm going to copy this. This is the offline map of a fire hydrant in city of Cilantro. It's actually going to be online and offline map of a fire hydrant in city of Cilantro. And then I'm going to change the thumbnail of this app. I have the thumbnail ready. I have the thumbnail there. And then I'm going to change other things in the resources tab, which is the app icon. This is the icon of the app when it's being installed in your mobile devices. I'm going to change this image. App icon. I'm also going to change the launch images. There's an overlay for launch images, basically the background that you would see in between when the app is getting ready to be launched. I have an overlay image here. Overlay image, and I'm gonna set a background color. I'm gonna show you a cool trick here. So instead of figuring out which the perfect orange color for my city of cilantro, I can use this color picker. I'm gonna pick this color to make sure it is the same orange color. I click orange, and then now you have the launch image preview here based on the overlay image and the background color. I'm gonna click apply just to make sure all the changes are saved. I'm going to go to the properties tab. I can change the background image. I also have that image ready. I'm going to change the brand color. I have the brand color ready here. And I'm going to also change the font size to be a little bit bigger, so 14. And then I'm going to go to the gallery tab. This is where you set what web map and mobile map packages that you want to be shown inside your mobile map viewer templates. I have the ID of the web map and MMPK ready. You can either specify each and individual ID of the item you want to show, or you can put all of them into a group and then just simply specify the group ID. I'm also going to say that I want to show both online and offline, and I'm going to click apply. And then quickly make sure I have a runtime license set up, because this is going to be using a lot of runtime functionality. Click on this one, and then automatically the runtime license is set up. I'm gonna click apply. Now I'm going to quickly run the app. As you can see, now the background is now orange for City of Cilantro, and I click start. I have both the web map and the mobile map package showing. We can go into the mobile map package. This is the mobile map package that's running offline. From the mobile package, you can click on the features and see the details of this. And there are a lot of, since it's offline, there are not a lot of functionality that you can do. I'm going to go back to the web map. This is the web map of the same data. You can, for example, change the base map for this. You can quickly change base map to a different base map. You can also do a measure tool. So for example, if you want to do a measurement from one fire hydrant to the next, you can simply click on this and then go on the next one, and you know that it's around 600 yards from this hydrant to the next, or about 0.3 miles. You can also quickly take a screenshot of this, and you can send this screenshot into to yourself or to someone else. To discard this, I'm gonna change the internet is a little bit slow just to make sure, so I'm going to show you again that the screenshot should work with so now I can do some distance again and then take a screenshot. Now you have the screenshot of the entire map that is showing here. So I'm going to clear it, and then I'm going to go back. So this is that's all the demo I have today. I have shown you the AppStudio desktop, and also I've shown you how to quickly and create and configure using one of our template map viewer. For now, I'm going to pass it back to Chris, and then we're going to come back for a further demo later.
Thank you, thank you, Erwin. That really was impressive. I mean, you saw the kind of app that you can create just by configuring, that has capabilities like measure, changing base maps, even working with offline data if needed. So a lot of we didn't even really scratch the surface of what's included with that map viewer. Many other bits of functionality. And that was all done by simply configuring the settings for that app. So with that in mind, let's talk about who's using AppStudio. Well, WebGIS users, people that are using WebGIS, making web maps, web apps, they're using AppStudio. Professional GIS individuals who, maybe rather than just working in desktop GIS, they now have a need to build apps and deploy those to other people, and they've upped their skills a bit. They're using AppStudio. Python developers, they're used to writing Python scripts and doing some coding. It's a very approachable platform for them to be successful in creating native apps. Web developers like AppStudio because it is similar to web development in that you just simply write your application immediately. You can see what it looks like. Where a web developer sees it in a browser immediately, we can see it. Double click, you can see what the app looks like. You can even see it on different platforms with AppStudio Player very easily. And then application developers as well. We offer a lot of productivity tools to allow you to build apps quickly and to also allow you to build cross-platform, which is key. So now I want you to think about, who are you? I want to talk a little bit about some of the personas of typical AppStudio developers. So for this time, for this few slides, what are you comfortable doing? What are the skills you have right now? What might allow you to build apps, and what can you build? And maybe how can you maybe grow those skills a little more and do even more when building apps? So I have a few personas here. One we're going to call the configurator. This is someone who is a GIS user. They have some technical skills. They can build web maps and web apps using things like Web App Builder. So they're really comfortable configuring things. They kind of understand how the whole online maybe ArcGIS Online, ArcGIS Enterprise, and distributing apps works. And they're comfortable configuring a template. We have another one that I would call the geohacker. This is probably someone who is a GIS professional or is maybe trained in GIS, and then over time upped their skills as far as scripting and using something like Python. Maybe they got into some HTML, dabbled in a little JavaScript. They're typically good at being able to read some code, maybe copy and paste that into their own app, make it work for them, and figure out how to get the job done. And then we have a code ninja. This is someone who, if you ask them what their job is, they might say that they are a developer. They're going to be fluent in at least one programming language. They'd rather often start from scratch or from at least a minimum when starting an app. They could be, a seasoned web developer, a web developer that now has the task of writing some native app, and they love getting into the documentation. That API documentation is key for them. They understand it. They understand how to implement that. So think about maybe where you fall in these three different personas, and maybe you're kind of in between two. I think I'm kind of in the middle of two of those there. But let's now talk about what you can do with AppStudio at these different levels. Well, a configurator can obviously configure a template, like Erwin just showed. So connect your maps and data, change the colors, the icons, the fonts, different settings on your app. Test those on different devices, and then you can share those apps with your coworkers. And using various tools, and you can actually publish those apps to app stores. So you create an app by just configuring it and publish those apps into app stores if you don't need any further customization. The geohacker, they can extend those app templates, so add bits of functionality, a button here, extra bit of a dialogue. Maybe use some of our samples and integrate that into a template. And to add new functionality. Or maybe start with we have a few basic layouts. Maybe they start with the layout and add maps and information into that layout. And then a code ninja, of course, they can do everything else that the configurator geohacker can do, but they probably, they might want to start from scratch. They might want to do things like integrate with specific hardware or custom components. And extend some of those enterprise templates like Survey 123, add extra functionality to Survey 123. So this just gives you an idea of kind of what at these different personas you can do with AppStudio. And hopefully this will inspire you to think of apps that you could build and deploy. And speaking of deploying, let's go to I'll talk about our next section. That is deploying AppStudio apps. Because we have some unique capabilities with AppStudio to deploy to deploy apps. So first, let's talk about publishing apps to the App Store. And this is from the AppStudio developer's perspective. So with AppStudio, if you were to publish to the App Store, you would write your app in AppStudio Desktop, as you see on the left there. When you're done and your app is looking good, you're going to upload that to your ArcGIS organization, the app, or you can call it maybe an app project. You can upload that to your ArcGIS organization, whether it's online or enterprise, where it's stored, and then you can download it and run it on devices using AppStudio Player to see what it looks like, to test it out, to see if it looks good on an Android and iOS device. How is it going to scale on an iPad maybe? So this is a typical workflow of an AppStudio developer utilizing the capabilities of storing the app in their organization and being able to run it on Player to do some testing. And when they're done with this, app's looking good, they can request a build that using that CloudMake service, request a build, get that separate install, executable, that binary, and then go through the process of publishing that to app stores. And that's going through Apple or Google's, using their tools, their process of uploading the file and publishing it to those different app stores, where then other users can get it. And this is, if you're publishing apps to the public, this is the way you're most likely going to do this. Particularly on Apple, it's the only solution, and on Android, it's kind of the best solution. So you can push updates, so people can easily find and access your apps. But this is not an easy task. One thing is you do have to manage the certificates. You have to get developer accounts. You have to make sure that everything is in line and that you get approvals from your legal and your department heads. And there's complexity that goes along with that. So what if you just want to build apps and put those into your organization, into your own, your enterprise, the enterprise you work in? So deploying apps to the enterprise with AppStudio is unique because we can utilize AppStudio Player to do that. So this demo, what I'm showing here is kind of what we saw originally is that you're gonna build on the desktop, you're gonna upload it to your organization and then test it on your device. Maybe have someone else in your organization test it as well. Maybe a manager, maybe a designer, maybe another just a coworker to validate that it's working properly. But now instead of getting that CloudMake build and pushing that to the app stores where other people can download it, you're simply going to have them download AppStudio Player from an app store or from our website if they're on a desktop platform, and they log in AppStudio Player, and now they can use the apps that you've shared with them. So just like you share a web map or web app with someone in an organization, you can share your AppStudio apps with them. They can download it and run it inside of AppStudio Player. And think of this as, just think of all the different things you can share. Our ArcGIS organizations are capable of creating a lot of different things: mapping apps, data collection, field operation apps, things like dashboards and such. You can create all sorts of different content in your organization. And how key it is to get that information into the hands of the users on the devices that they use the most, on the devices that they connect to the internet and they connect to their network the most, which is often mobile devices today, because that's how people connect to these services most often. So it's a very powerful concept and a very powerful tool. Now I'm going to give you a demonstration of how to kind of effectively do this and how an organization might do it with our fictitious city of the city of Cilantro. Give you an example. Before I jump into my piece, actually I'm going to turn it back to Erwin, who's going to, because we're going to build off the app that he just built. So I'll turn it back to Erwin right now.
All right, Chris, thank you. Now we are back to the AppStudio desktop, to my computer. Before I share this, I just wanted to quickly touch base about the CloudMake service that Chris mentioned. If you want your app to be in the App Store or have an executable, what you need to do is to click on the Make tool of the app, right? Click Make. It's going to open this little tool. You can do a CloudMake or local make. What people use, a lot of people are using, is the CloudMake services, where it lets you create the executable for Android, iOS, macOS, Windows 64 and 32, and even Linux. And now you click Start, and then now this build is being created by us, and then it will be sent to you via over-the-air installation. So while this is building, I'm going to go back to what we originally wanted to do. I wanted to show you how to deploy the app that I just created to Chris so that it can be distributed and play in the AppStudio player. One thing you want to do is to upload the app. So you can click upload. It is going to open the upload dialog. You can choose to upload it privately with your organization or with everyone. I've uploaded this, and then I wanted to show you that I also want to share this item, this app, which is an ArcGIS Online item, to a specific group. So I'm going to click, to do that, you need to click on the open action here, or you can click open online. That will open the ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Enterprise item page. And then I'm going to share this into a specific group that I have access to, which is a Cilantro Public Works. So I'm sharing this AppStudio app, which is an ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Enterprise item, into a specific group. I've shared this, and then now Chris should have access to that. So I'm going to pass it back to Chris.
Thank you, Erwin. All right. For the purpose of this demonstration, now I'm going to play the role of an app developer or GIS developer for the city of Cilantro. My coworker and also GIS professional and developer Erwin built that app for me, and I want to deploy it to some others. Here is the ArcGIS organization page for my city. You can see the icon and the branding for my city of Cilantro, and I've created this Public Works Department group. So this is a group that members are part of. I can share items with them. And inside this Public Works group, I've got a few, as you see these orange icons, a few native apps. In fact, I think I'm going to refresh here. Yep, there's one more native app that was just shared with me by Erwin. I also have a few web apps in here. I'm going to talk about those briefly in a bit as well, but the native apps are really what we're focusing on. So they're shared into this group, and I've also done a few things here with the tags. We have a way of configuring this group and giving a better experience for the end user if you set up some of these configurations or tags here, such as the app title, a tag here for the app title, the branding color. So this is a hexadecimal code for that orange color, as well as a email address. And if I've set this up and shared this, invited other people as part of this group, they'll have a better experience kind of with using the app on their devices. So now let's see what this will look like for the end user. I'm going to switch over to my iPhone. This would work on Windows and other Android, other platforms as well. Here we're using an iPhone. And I'm going to sign in to AppStudio Player. I'm signing in with my ArcGIS account. So imagine I'm a Public Works employee. I have an ArcGIS account. I'm signing in. Well, here I'm just seeing, this is kind of the AppStudio Player for my org. I see I've actually downloaded a few apps here. I can download more apps that have been shared with me in the organization. I can even access samples, AppStudio samples. So this is our default out of the box kind of view of AppStudio Player. But we can give a better experience by pointing the user to that group that we just created. So you can do that by sending them a link. Here's a specific link here, which is really just at the end of it, AppStudioArchitecture.com, and then group ID equals the group ID that I created. When I click on that, it's going to open Player. It's going to give me a new custom profile based on that group. And now I see my branding color of my organization. I see the Cilantro Public Works. I know that I work in Public Works. These are the apps that have been curated and set aside for me to use. And I can even, here's that hydrant inspection app that Erwin just created. I'm going to click on the little download button, and I was downloading this native app, this onto my device so I can run it inside of Player. It's downloaded. I'll click on that, and there is the app. I can zoom in. I can tap on things. I can do things like change the base map, as Erwin showed before, do some measurements and things like that. So I have all these capabilities. Erwin just created this app. He shared it to the organization. I, as an end user, download it onto my device, and now I'm ready to go. Another, we want to show you one other way that you can share information and some apps is that you can actually also deploy web apps. So as you remember back in that group, I had a couple of web apps that I shared. So these run inside of what we call a browser view or web view inside of AppStudio. So I have a little tab here at the top. It says web apps. I'll click on that and open one of these Adopt a Road web app. And this is just a browser view. It's just a kind of an embedded web page, and I can tap on one of these and it selects the road, and I can see information about it. So if your web apps are configured nicely to run on mobile devices, this is also a way to kind of mix and match native applications that will run offline that can take advantage of those capabilities, as well as some maybe informational web apps that you want to deploy as well. So a powerful concept there. That was a brief, well, I hope that gave you an idea of what's possible with deploying apps with AppStudio into an organization. It really is just that easy. And as we'll talk about in just a minute, you most likely have access to this. So some of the enhancements that we recently put into AppStudio Player to enable this functionality, we gave that that ability to configure a custom experience, that custom profile. That's new. Those new app user profiles. That's a new feature. Also, that ability to run web apps inside of Player is a new feature. So if perhaps in the past you've worked with Player or you understood what it can do, we encourage you take a look at it. We've recently rolled these out in the last releases in the last couple months, these capabilities, and greatly enhance the end user experience, kind of the non-developer, non-testing experience, kind of the app, I call it the app user experience in AppStudio Player. So encourage you to look at that. Now we're going to talk about customizing AppStudio with code. I know many of you listening are developers. This is part of our developer conference track, and you want to see, well, how can I add my own functionality? How can I add some code? So I'm going to now turn this section over to Erwin, and he's going to talk about customizing AppStudio with code.
Thank you, Chris. So before I begin, I also want to set a stage here that what I shown earlier in the previous demo is more along the line of the persona of a configurator, as Chris mentioned it. What I'm going to do next is for people in the persona of geohacker or maybe code ninja. So what we will show you is that you have already configured one of our template, the color, the mapping, and all of the configuration. But let's say if you want to add some functionality into, or even remove functionality from our template. So we wanted to show you how to get into the source code and add some code, and then to add a few functionality. So before I begin, I just wanted to set the stage that the language that's being used to create AppStudio apps, it's called QML. Qt Meta Language. It is a declarative language designed to build apps. It is very similar to it's very similar to JSON. The way I think about it is that if you have created a website before, it uses HTML and JavaScript. HTML takes care of the user interface, and then the JavaScript takes care of the application logic. Same way with building AppStudio apps, we use QML for the user interface and JavaScript for the business logic. Sounds good? And now I'm going to switch to my computer. So now we are back into AppStudio Desktop. And this is the app that we created in the past, Hydrant Inspection, that we have shared into Chris, and he was able to see it on the phone. And Chris get back to me, and he said that we are missing a button that he would like so that he can go click on the fire hydrant and then be able to get a direction on how to get there. So we're going to do that. First thing, in order to access the source code of the app, you can click on the edit button here, edit in Qt Creator, or right click, edit in Qt Creator. What it's going to do is going to open a new application, Qt Creator, which is the development environment that we use for you to modify and maintain the source code of the app. As you can see here that this is QML. It has import statement. We are importing Qt library. We are importing AppStudio App Framework library, and also we are importing ArcGIS Runtime library. And this it's very readable. It looks like HTML, and it has JavaScript function in it. This is where all of the application logic is. So now we wanted to get into the customization that I wanted to show you. The way our map viewer template works is following the MVC methodology. Now I'm in the view, and then I'm going to open the panel page, which is so I'm going to run this. I wanted to show you what we're going to do. So I'm going to start, and then go here, and I'm going to click on the hydrant. And then when I click on the hydrant, we have the information here. Chris wants to add a button here that says direction, that will open Google Map or Apple Map. Then it will show him how to go to this location. So we are going to do that. So this panel is the panel page that I'm going to add some codes in it. So I have the panel page open. I have the quick cheat sheet here. So I'm going to make sure open to the code that we want to add to. So we're going to add code here. I'm going to add the code here first, and I'm going to explain to you what I just add. So I add this code here. So what I did was saying that I wanted to first print the current features that's being selected. And then I created a special reference because I want to convert the X and Y of the features into the lat and long. After that, I'm calling a geometry engine project task that will convert the geometry of the features into the 4326, which is usable for lat and long. And then I'm assigning the Y into a lat, and then I'm assigning the X into a longitude. And then I'm going to add this into a button. So going to go to identify feature view. We are going to create the variable, the lat and long variable that we just added. We're setting a property called direction lat and direction long. And then we are going to add a button. We're going to add a button here, and the button is just says so. As you can see here, that we have a button with a text direction that is aligned to a horizontal center, and on the click of a button, I'm going to compose a URL, an app link to open a Google Map or Apple Map with the lat and long as the destination. So I'm going to save this, and just to show you that we have a debugging capability, that I'm going to add a breakpoint here on the click of a button, and instead of running it in a normal mode, I'm going to run this on a debug mode. I'm going to run this, and then I click start. I'm going to choose a fire hydrant. And now we have this new direction button that we just added. As I click on this button, and then when I click on this button, the breakpoint hits, and then we should have the direction lat and long here. And I'm going to let this go, and then it opens the Google Map URL on the desktop. But if we were to run it on the mobile device, it would open Google Map apps or Apple Maps app. So I'm going to do that quickly. Make sure I save this, and then I'm going to upload this app so that Chris can have these new changes. So I'm going to upload and update this app, and then while it is updating, and then Chris, after this being updated, Chris can run it on AppStudio Player.
All right, it's updating.
Yep.
I'm going to switch over to my phone now. All right, we're back on my iPhone here. We're looking at, Erwin just updated the hydrant inspection app, which I ran earlier. So I go to the app, I can hit this little update button, and we're going to update with the latest version of this app. All right, it's complete. I'll play the app. And now we'll zoom in on one of these hydrants. And there's that direction button that Erwin created. Now I want to point out, when he created that, as you notice, it was kind of on a side panel. Well, he was in a tablet view of the app, and so in tablet view, you have an information panel on the side because you've the more real estate you have to look at the map. On a phone, that really wouldn't work. It'd be really skinny or just wouldn't scale. So that's just one advantage of these templates. They actually work. They're smart so that they will give you the information on one side or the other with this map viewer template. It's really a nice way of displaying information, and works as it should on a tablet view or here on a phone view. I'm going to tap that directions button, and as you can see in this case, it the same bit of code, but it jumped out to Apple Maps in this case and gave me directions to where I need to go. So really cool ability to, in this case, write some customization to the app with QML that Erwin just showed. Being able to push that up easily to me, I simply just update my app inside of Player, and now I have the new functionality. All right, so that was customizing with QML and JavaScript in AppStudio. Now I'm going to talk about a little bit about how do you get AppStudio, the licensing. Are you licensed, or what you have, how it's licensed? A little over a year ago at Esri, we rolled out this idea of we have named users where you log in with a certain a username and password into your ArcGIS organization. You have different capabilities. Used to be just we had named user level 1, level 2. Now we have named users kind of more divided up into user types, and these different user types have different functionality and capability, from viewer that can just view data, to a field worker who can collect data in the field, to a creator and GIS professional who can create maps and data and services. With AppStudio, well, first of all, let's start with AppStudio Player, the Player application. These AppStudio Player is available for free for anyone to download from app stores or from our website. And all of these different user types can log into AppStudio Player, download apps that have been created for them, or in some cases they created, but they can download those apps and then run the apps inside of Player. So if you have a viewer and you just want to view a simple viewing app that someone created for you and upload your organization, you can log in to AppStudio Player and run it. So all these different user types have access to AppStudio Player. And then we have the AppStudio for ArcGIS license. This is the license that gives us the desktop tool, gives us AppStudio Desktop, allows us to configure new apps, share those apps into our ArcGIS organization. You can actually develop new apps with code or customize templates with code, so that Qt Creator and writing code, that's included with this AppStudio for ArcGIS license. And you can share the apps that you create with other users using AppStudio Player. So sharing them into an organization and then having them download the apps and run them inside of AppStudio Player. And this is included with all creator level and GIS professional level user types. So if you can create, this used to be called a level 2 user, typically. If you can create a web map, if you can create a web app inside your organization, if you can create a story map, if you can create a web app builder app in your organization, well, you have the capability to create an AppStudio app and deploy it and share it with others as well. So as I said, this is the piece where I think a lot of you don't know that you have this functionality or these capabilities, but it's already there and licensed for you. This is some licensing changes and updates that we did last year to make more of the product available to more users. And then we have an AppStudio Developer Edition license. AppStudio Developer Edition includes everything that the AppStudio license includes, of course, but it also adds the ability to do a cloud make. So take advantage of those servers in the cloud and build that separate install executable. With that, you can publish that to an app store. You can publish it to an enterprise mobile deployment, or mobile device management system, if that's what you're using. Or it also gives you access to our advanced templates, meaning Survey 123, and Quick Capture, and a couple others. Now this license comes with a ArcGIS developer subscription. So to get this AppStudio Developer Edition license, you need to have a paid developer subscription. So if you go to developers.arcgis.com, you'll see more information about the different developer subscriptions. I will make note, maybe your organization already has one of these subscriptions. Maybe you have it, you're not using it, or you used to have what we used to call an EDN license. Those got converted over to ArcGIS developer subscriptions. I say for larger organizations, there's a good chance that you already have one of these. Ask the admin or ask whoever manages that beforehand if that's the case. But this gives you access to do all those different things. So again, all those users can use AppStudio Player. I think almost everyone who's listening to this has that access to that AppStudio license where they can use desktop, configure tools, deploy those to others using Player. And then it requires a developer edition license to do a separate build and publish apps to those public app stores. So kind of to recap, we talked earlier about the challenges of writing native app development, the time and cost, the distribution challenges, security, maintenance and updates. Well, we really focus with AppStudio to take all these challenges and turn them into advantages of AppStudio development. So reducing the time and cost, reducing the number of developers it takes to create an app and to deploy it. Having that flexible app distribution model and methods with AppStudio Player. Being able to use the built-in ArcGIS named users to add that access to data and maps and app security. And being able to do cross-platform updates. So when you do need to push an update to your app, you can really write it once and push it out to all those different platforms. Because with AppStudio, it is truly writing the app once and deploying it and distributing it to all these different platforms. I really hope that you enjoyed this AppStudio introduction. I hope that it gives you some ideas of how you can take the really great, the GIS data and maps, the great things you're doing with GIS, and how you can maybe turn that into an app and get it in the hands of more people, get it in the hands of people on the devices that they use more often and have access to. With that, I thank you for listening and I encourage you to download AppStudio and give it a try. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.